Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dakota.
I'm Lori.
And today we're going to be talking about, is your max out-of-pocket lying to you?
Well, so yes and no, right? Like
Yes and
I
no.
think that most people even ask you about a max out of pocket? I think that primarily they come at me with deductible. Like people are very hung up on deductible, right?
Yeah, I don't think people understand like all of the steps past the deductible.
So let's talk about it. So starts with there are three numbers that work together on a plan. So the first is deductible. Deductible is the amount of money that you have to satisfy before your plan is going to pay a benefit.
Let's pull up these terms as we're talking about it.
So you have to hit your deductible before your plan is going to pay a benefit, right? Oftentimes that's where people become very concerned because they're like, my insurance doesn't even kick in until I hit a deductible. And that's true, except for outside of wellness. So wellness is covered before deductible is satisfied, as well as your copays. If you have copays on your plan for doctor's visits or labs or what have you, those things are outside of your deductible. So you would get that help before. Second number is coinsurance.
Is your coinsurance, yeah.
So coinsurance, and we hear this 80-20, 70-30, 60-40, 50-50. That is the number that you share in cost of claims with the insurance company. So after you hit deductible and you move to an 80-20 coinsurance, for an example, you're going to pay 20% of the claims while the insurance company pays the other 80%. So you're not really off the hook yet for paying bills, right?
Correct, yeah.
Until you get to the max out of pocket. And the maximum out of pocket, or MOOP, right? You see it abbreviated a lot, MOOP. Maximum out of pocket is the amount of money that you have to satisfy before the insurance company is going to pick up the remainder of the claims at 100% coinsurance. So it really should be your worst case scenario number, right?
Yeah.
But you're going to tell us why it's not necessarily.
Yeah, 100%. So let's go look at some plans here. This is someone in the great state of Texas. We're at 35, and not saying we recommend these plans, but just go take a look at them. Here, if you let's just go pull up this 12-point plan here, right? I pulled up the lowest max out of pockets inside of the state. And it says the lowest on this one is $5,000,
which is pretty low
for an individual. Which, I mean, most people. This is the thing, when people are shopping insurance. Like if you're shopping insurance, like $5,000 doesn't feel low to them, right?
Because sure, it's a lot of money.
Because a lot of people are coming in from work plans, and they're like, oh, it's $2,000, $3,000.
It's still, I would say a work plan is still, $5,000 would be low for a work plan for a max out of pocket.
I know, but a lot of people, sorry, let me give context. A lot of people think their deductible is their max out of pocket.
Right.
And so they might have a $500, $2,000, $3,000 deductible, and they're like, it's all I pay. It's not, it's usually your max.
There's another number.
There's another number in there that's 6 or higher. So right. I think that's the first.
I also think that when people come and, they're like, I don't really need that much. I just want a major medical plan and I want a low deductible and I'm okay with a higher max out of pocket, but I don't want to spend very much money. Those things are all kind of in opposition of each other, right? If you think about a true major medical plan where the insurance company is saying, we're going to pay unlimited bills if the worst thing happens, those plans are going to cost more money. A major medical plan actually costs more because the insurance company is assuming a lot of risk if you actually have to use your insurance. But that also is kind of a disconnect for people. They think if I only take a major medical or a catastrophic plan, it should cost me less because I'm not going to use it for the everyday stuff. But it's not the everyday nickel and dime stuff that's costing anybody money. It's the big stuff, right?
It's the big stuff, yeah. So, but here's where there's a lot of catches, okay, with this max out of pocket. It really can go based off the network, okay? So there's a lot of networks out there, but the majority of the one on the marketplace is what's called an HMO, right? So what does an HMO mean?
It's a health maintenance organization. So it means that you are assigned or you select a primary care provider or PCP when you first enroll in your plan. In fact, before day one starts, you have to have your PCP chosen. And oftentimes their name is printed on the face of your card. You are tied to that person and that they're the gatekeeper for everything that happens in your world. You can't just see a mole and want to have it looked at and go make an appointment at a dermatologist. You have to first go see your PCP, show them the mole, tell them what's happening, and then they will make a referral to a dermatologist and you can go to the derm. So you have to get referrals for everything that happens.
But that's the thing. If it's ever out of network on an HMO, is it covered?
Well, yes, it would be
When is it yes?
double the deductible, double the max out of pocket. So on most plans, including your employer plans, your group plans, if you stumble upon a provider that's out of network, or if on an HMO you skip the head, you go to a doctor and you didn't get the appropriate referral, now it's considered out of network and it's going to double your deductible and double your out of pocket maximum, which now you went from $5,000 you didn't love as your max out of pocket to $10,000, right? If you have an out of network event, gets to be very expensive.
It does, yeah, for sure. But if you look, I just pulled up like their summary benefits, you'll see a lot of these things are not covered outside of the network. And that's the thing, like when you're in a major situation, a lot of times they just rush you to the hospital, right? And it's like if they code it as a emergency event in the hospital. And so you're relying on that medical provider to code it as an emergency, but like let's say you like break your arm, how are they going to code that as an emergency?
Well, even if they do code it as an emergency, it's not necessarily going to be covered by your HMO, because the prereq for something out of network being covered is that it has to be a life-threatening emergency on an HMO for them to
be covered. Like a lot of times when you're going through something major, it's not just like a one visit and you're done. Like they want to see you as much as possible. Like you are in and out for follow-ups, for tests, for things like that. And all of that is going uncovered on side of these events on everything.
Well, yes, but like if we were in this situation, you're not going to do a lot of this stuff. Like you're going to plan for it and you're going to probably go back in network. That's why they're not covering it here. Like it makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like if you're like, what if you're in a city and the hospital you want to go to is not a network? That the doctor you want to go to, you have to switch doctors.
Correct.
That's the pain. That's the pain on HMO to go towards his max out of pocket. You might have to change your medical providers that you want to go to.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. And I have that conversation with people all the time, right? Because people become very attached to their providers and you have to play Sophie's Choice with the marketplace all the time, because you go to look up their providers and you'll say, well, 2/3 of your providers are in network, or 4/5 or 3/5 or whatever, however many providers they give you for their family. And it's touchy because you don't want to tell them, go change your doctor, because that's not exactly an easy thing to do. But that's the reality, is like, it's very important to operate in the confines of a network, especially on an HMO. And if the doctor's not in network, you may have to find a different
So let's talk about this. Like, let's say hypothetically someone gets a surgery and there's a lot of different doctors that like see you when you have a surgery, and sometimes they bill as contractors to the hospital. What percentage would you say that they bill out of network?
So I don't know what percentage, but I can tell you that there are certain professions that pretty much always are going to be out of network. Like anesthesiologists are almost never in network. Chiropractors are often not in network. Therapists, psychotherapists are not often in network. I don't know the reason. I don't know if they do it so they can charge a higher premium. I don't know if they do it so that they can not have to wait on their money from an insurance company. I don't know what the reasoning is, but I can tell you oftentimes, probably like more than half of the time when you have an anesthesiologist that you had no pre-meeting with, you don't know this person, like they're just in there giving you anesthesia when you're having whatever your procedure is, you will come to find out after the fact, it doesn't happen until you get medical billing, that person was not in network. And when you call to like complain about it, you find out they weren't in network with anybody.
Yeah, we don't have any stats on it, but we hear all the time, like, I went and got this surgery done, and why did I get this bill? And it's already happened, but there was like when they called the hospital and did their pre-authorization, like they were in network, but then there's these other providers that are now bill out of network.
Sure. Well, and when they call and do a pre-authorization, they're really just looking at the facility and the surgeon, or right, the main
the main people.
Yeah, some plans don't even cover for a surgical assistant. Like it just depends on an understanding your coverage. And the problem is, in an emergent situation, who has time to like check all these boxes? You don't. And if the damage is already done and you've already had your surgery and then you're dealing with this when you figure it out after you're billed, there's really nothing anybody can do at that point. Like you will never, in my experience, find a provider that you can go back to and say, well, don't bill my insurance then, just give me the cash rate. They're never going to do that because it's already been sent to insurance and they're already like waiting on a payment and they've already filed a claim, right? So to get them to go reverse that after the fact is not going to happen.
It's too late.
You have to do all that before, but in an emergent situation, it's not like you can. So you're kind of in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and I find a lot of just since we deal all over the country, like a lot of hospitals and providers are kind of cold. Like it's like you give them your card or this, but it's not like you can negotiate. Oh, take this. Like check every doctor, check make sure everything's in network.
Well,
Like,
I mean, who's going to do that, right?
I know that's what I'm saying. Like it's like a broken system. If you're just from the consumer, like if you're just trying to make sure you're good.
Well, and like I'm running into a ton right now where like people call in to the marketplace because we're at the tail end of the second round of open enrollment, right? And so I had a lady today, for instance, who had called into the marketplace. She'd never been on marketplace coverage before. She lost her job. She doesn't want to do COBRA. So she was like playing the marketplace game, and they had enrolled her in a plan. And she gets on the phone with me. She's like, I was referred to you, and like I just want to see if there's something different that you can do, and like teach me about this. And so I go in and I look at the plan that they enrolled her in, and she gives me her doctor's names. And I'm like, did they tell you that 3 of 5 of these doctors are not in network? Like, did they go over that with you? And she's like, no, absolutely not. She had no idea that the doctors that were most important to her, she wasn't going to be able to see. So in the end, and then we talked about max out of pocket. We talked about deductible. We talked about how to plug up the holes. We talk about, that's our language a lot, right? Like every plan that you find is going to have holes. I would say some of these marketplace plans with a $10,600 max out of pocket, that's a hole. It's a pretty big gaping hole. Yeah. So we got to figure out how to fill it in, because it's not just having the coverage. It's if you really have to use it. And like people think that that's so off the wall. Well, I'm never going to hit a $10,000 deductible or max out of pocket. You could do that simpler than you think. If you just break a bone in our world today, you are probably hitting max out of pocket. It's a very expensive event, right? If you break a bone, your kid plays a sport, they break a bone, they have to have a surgery. Stop. 30 grand, easy, right? Like drop in the bucket. Yeah. So it's like not just having the coverage, but having the coverage and then having the stuff to protect you from your plan. Because just checking the box and having your coverage is not enough. And that's what, explaining that to this woman, she worked with a marketplace rep. They're not licensed, right? They're like call center associates that are there to take an order, right? So she worked with a marketplace rep. They thought that they were doing right by her. They got her into a plan. She was pretty happy. The income was wrong. I said, let me explain to you what that looks like, what this is going to look like if you gauge this wrong. Like, let me tell you how this is going to go. And brace her for like the tax bill she would have gotten hit with if she had stayed where she was.
What was the tax bill going to be?
Well, so they had put her at an income. She's like, I don't know, my income swings and I lost my job. So it could be 30,000. If it stays right now, if I just do some contract work, it could be 30,000. It also could be 150,000. It could be such a swing because I don't know how much contract work I'll pick up. So they put her at the 30K, which gave her a plan that was $51 a month. Yeah, that sounds great until you do the math that if she makes more than $67,001 in her state,
so it cuts off.
She would lose the entire subsidy and she would owe back $18,000.
That's almost another video we need to make, is because like how many people are close to the cut up on the subsidy.
And if you're $1 over,
then
and you owe all of it back,
yeah.
Are you kidding? And I'm like, you got to hear me on this. Yeah, this is an $18,000 tax bill you're going to get. Like we can't leave this like this. So we corrected the income. We put her in a plan where her doctors were going to take it. Like we made sure that the meds, I sent her like there's just so much that goes into it. And no part of me believes that the marketplace agent had the wrong heart and weren't trying to help her. They just don't know what they don't know, right? Yeah. Like they don't do it every day. They don't work with like the different intricacies of plans and understand how they all work. And so this woman, had we not met next year, it would have been very unpleasant for her, right? Because she's going to make more than that. She would have owed all that money back. Like she needed some education. And so, yeah. Crazy.
So I would say anesthesiologists are like a big thing. Also,
all the time. Yeah.
Going to like an ER visit is when you go, a lot of times you're just seeing people random. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're contracts at the hospital and they just bill outside the network.
And a lot of times, I don't know why this is, an emergency room oftentimes can bill separately than the hospital facility itself. So that's a whole other thing. You could go to Mercy Hospital or wherever you're going to go, and the hospital's in network, but the ER facilities are not.
Yeah.
Some ERs bill as an urgent care, some bill as an emergency. Like it's so wild. And it's stuff that like, it's when you're using your insurance and you're in the hardest part and you find all this stuff. You go use it thinking you're covered, thinking you've covered the bases because you have a plan. And then you get the bills and you're like, well, I wasn't really covered very well at all.
Yeah,
So
100%. So that's a lot of times in our like plans that we build is we will put a PPO portion inside the plan. So what that does is if they're outside of the network, the plan will still pay inside. So that's one way to cover up the hole. The other way I just pulled up, this is with United Healthcare, is critical illness. One of the biggest reasons you're going to hit a max out of pocket is if you get something major like cancer, heart attacks, chronic critical, stuff like that, especially even COVID, and they're going to pay out. A lot of times we'll put anywhere probably between like 150K just to make sure that people have money there because look, you can't plan a lot of this stuff. Like it happens if the hospital's going to bill you. The only thing you can really do as a consumer, and this is a pro tip, is call for an itemized bill. So because a lot of times hospitals will just send you a random bill.
Or like $20 for a Tylenol, or like,
Yeah.
I mean, crazy pricing and stuff that you're like, but I didn't even have an epidural. Like, why am I being charged for an epidural? And you won't know that until you get an itemized bill that there are oftentimes a lot of extra charges that are tacked on there.
Yeah, and it's too late. Like, unless you're going to let that go to collections or set up a payment plan and try to fight it there, I mean, it's already billed. Like, what are you supposed to do as a consumer, right? Like, do you want that to hurt your credit?
And you have to be your own advocate, which most of us are not trained to do, like to be able to push back on these things. And you get a bill in the mail and your eyes are wide and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so, yeah, I mean, it's a racket. It's all.
So that's the other thing. The other thing that I want to talk about, and this probably deserves its own video too, but I just want to touch on it here, is the other thing that doesn't go towards any max out of pocket or deductible is this small little word called balance billing. So probably the craziest thing that a lot of people don't think about is like balance billing. Okay, so if we like pull up these plans, like if you type in a word here, right, it is going to be balance billing. Balance billing is one of the things that does not go towards any max out of pocket. So what the frick is balance billing? What does that mean? So these providers at hospitals are kind of crazy. Sometimes no matter what the insurance charges, they'll just send a bill to the customer and be like, pay this bill. It could be thousands, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right? Now, there is like protection against it federally. It's called the No Surprise Act, where they're not supposed to. But a lot of times this happens like after the fact, right? Like you get a surgery done, hospital sometimes does, I mean, let's call it what it is, scare tactics, and they try to like send this bill. It might be a lot of stuff in there. We talked about that, ask for an itemized bill. But all the while, they're asking for you to pay them. Like they just bill you and they can send it to collections and you have to like fight it out in court. It's a whole thing, right? And so to illustrate this, I've kind of been through this situation. So I had a thyroid surgery. My dad had thyroid cancer and he got it removed. And so they saw a bulge. They just said, hey, it's better if you just remove it. So the surgery to remove it was going to cost like $30,000. And at the time I had what's called, and not to get too insurance nerdy here, this is probably a whole separate video, but what's called a reference-based plan. Like it's lower than an HMO. They don't use a network and they go based on the Medicare allowable rates. Every state has their certain rates they're allowed to charge. But the deal is if you have a reference-based plan, the hospital has to sign saying that we agree to these charges and we're not going to send a bill over it. We're not going to balance bill. And I'll never forget the guy's name. His name's Mario. Mario was at, and he was like, hey man, I was on the phone with him. And by the way, I'm in insurance 12, 15 hours a day. Like no one does this stuff of like calling it, well, I just say no one, but it's rare where the customer's calling the billing direct at a hospital. Like that typically doesn't happen. But I was doing it just to make sure everything was good. And he was saying, just come in and get the surgery done. But he would not sign the documents. And I'm like, Mario, no, you little mother trucker. I'm not going to come in here and like get this surgery done and then you just get a balance bill. And it took like, I don't know, like 5 to 6 phone calls for him to sign these documents.
What's up with that, Mario? We want to hear from you, Mario.
Yeah, we need
What's your problem, Mario?
We need Mario's point of view. But anyways, that's my point of view. And so this is a real thing. And it, reference-based, which is, I would say, the lowest. Like, I don't think too many people should be on reference-based plans because I just don't think they really work too hot. System that's created. But even on HMOs, which a ton of people on marketplace plans, balance billing doesn't go towards max out of pocket. Even on PPO plans, which PPO plans are the greatest type of network, it allows you to go in and out of the network. It still does not protect against balance billing. It still does not classify as towards the max out of pocket. Now, there are legal protections, but again, like, this is a thing you kind of have to fight out with the hospital and like essentially declare a lawsuit for them to sometimes drop it because you're protected. And sometimes they try to sneak bills in, right? And so it's always good to have money there in supplement coverage. We usually bundle this in as a brokerage through critical illnesses, accidents, all the things that are going to cause a potential out-of-network situation just because of how they bill you or if they balance bill you. And that way you're protected going in. Isn't that a pretty crazy story?
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's the biggest danger of plans. People, and this is what we should name this video. Like, your deductible is lying to you because people think, not out of ill intent, they just don't know, right? That because of how the system's set up, it's not just your deductible, co-insurance, it's your max out of pocket, and then it's all these other things that you can't control. If people bill you out of network, if there's a balance bill situation, if they declare it as a life-threatening emergency, and all the while you're out. And once you're not in a plan, you're pretty much screwed. Because if you're in the middle of a pre-existing condition and it's not open enrollment, there's very few places to go to that's going to cover your claim, right? Because you're essentially asked, like, if you say this example all the time, like, if your house, it's like your house on fire, and be like, I'm going to go get homeowners insurance. Like, no, this is how insurance companies make money. They're not just going to, they don't want to cover claims. Right.
I know, and it's not to shame anyone. I think that there are just so many misconceptions out there. And honestly, you can find the argument in favor of whatever like point you want to make on the internet. Like, the internet's chock full of, nonsense a lot of the time. A lot of truth, but a lot of nonsense. I even had someone ask me the other day, her daughter had a pretty serious accident, and she's like, well, she wasn't covered. Her dad let her coverage lapse, and I'm going to get her on a plan so that they'll cover what just happened. And I'm like, oh no, like, that's not at all how insurance works. That's like having a car accident and then saying, I'm going to go get insurance now. Will you cover me for what happened 3 months ago on my, like, no insurance plan is going to do that. But like, and that's not any shade on her. It's just people don't understand. They really don't understand. And they don't understand that insurance, you got to have it before you need it. Because it is a gamble. It is. Somebody told me the other day, a client told me, insurance is the oldest form of legalized gambling, is what she said. I think how she phrased it. And I get it. Like, it kind of is. But like, ultimately, if you knew nothing was going to happen, you wouldn't have to have insurance. If we had a crystal ball, we would never need it. But we don't know. And so you've got to have it always just in case. Like, that, it is the just in case clause in your life.
Situation for sure. So let's talk about what people should do. So if you're in this situation and you're like, who do I talk to? What do we do different at the Benefits Boss than any other brokerage out there?
Well, I think
what do we do?
Like that lady today, the lady that had the plan and she thought she was in like the best possible place and she'd never done this before. We totally changed up the entire play. We put her into a different plan that her doctors took, and I would say 95% of my clients walk away with dental vision, accident, and critical illness, because that is really filling in the holes on any plan that's out there, right? The two most common reasons that someone will hit an out-of-pocket maximum on a plan is they have a major illness or they have a major accident. Or really just an accident at this point when you would get there, because accidents are so expensive because you involve the ER, right? So critical illness coverage pays you a lump sum in the event that you have a critical illness diagnosis. You can use the money however you see fit. I've collected critical illness in my lifetime. You get to use the money. No one dictates it. It's a tax-free lump sum of money that comes to you. You get to decide how to use it, but it's really there to help pay the outstanding medical bills. It's also there to help keep the rest of your life going while you're recuperating from whatever the illness is. And I think critical illness is such an interesting coverage because most people try to do the right thing. They're like, I have insurance, therefore I'm covered. Not really. money, right? Like you lose sight of the fact that your insurance is going to pay the medical bills, but what's going to pay the rest of the bills, right? Because your mortgage and your electricity and the grocery bills don't stop just because you can't work because you're going through treatment, right? So critical illness coverage, I'm such an advocate for it. It's such an important coverage. And I would say 95% or more of my clients have critical illness because it's a passion of mine. I've seen it really change the whole trajectory of someone's experience, right? You have like the worst news of your life.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going to happen to me now? And then I'll remind them like, hey, we need to file this claim. Like we have this coverage. And they're like, they could cry, right? It's like, oh my God, this is such a godsend. And I totally forgot that I had it, right? So critical illness is number one. Accident coverage is number two. Accident coverage is the most utilized supplement besides the dental or vision that you can add onto a plan. And why is that? Because accidents run the gamut. It's anything that's coded to an accident in the ER with the provider. So they can only code it to accident, illness, or wellness. If it's not wellness and it's not illness, then it's accident and that coverage applies, right? All supplements pay directly to the client. So you get to decide how to allocate those funds once you receive them. They also all happen after the fact. But like, I believe in all these coverages. I have all these coverages for my family. I've seen them work time and time again. And that I think is another like really important. We've talked about this before on videos, but like statistically, people who have a broker that they're working with, they have a higher payout on their claims than someone who doesn't because you forgot you had critical illness coverage. You forgot you had accident coverage. You didn't understand how to work the system. You didn't understand what you should say or who you should ask to speak to or what should be your next step. Like it's such an invaluable tool, resource to people in a health insurance transaction. I don't know why anyone would do this without a broker. I really don't because it doesn't cost the client anything. They don't pay us. They just get a better level of coverage and they get a more comprehensive package. And that's really what we set out to do. I don't know that that's how everybody does it, but I explain to clients all the time, I'm like, we're better to take this less expensive plan and build all these supplements onto it to fill in the gap than if we just took this more expensive plan by itself. And people don't, not that they are not, they don't get it or they're just kind of ignorant to the situation. They don't do it every day and they don't know how they think that they did the right thing by just having the coverage. So I think that is something we do different. We sell them a true package. We build them something together. I even had someone say the other day, like, this is so great. Like you sharing your screen with me and showing this to me is so much better than what I just dealt with. And it was the same situation. They had a marketplace plan. Someone from the marketplace enrolled them. It wasn't adequate. It wasn't going to meet their needs. We switched their marketplace plan. We added supplements on. They were so much happier and they felt like it was an educational process. So I think that's what we do different. That's a really long answer to your question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally true. I think that a lot of people are looking for a non-biased thing, and I think in today's world, like you feel like you can just get the information online. It's not the way in health insurance. Like there are so many off-market plans in different states that you can't just Google and get an answer. And the insurance industry is kind of weird. Like there's a lot of MLM kind of agents out there that are MLM, like they're just kind of a call center vibe, you know, and so. If you're looking for something like, hey, I just want someone to hear me out, just figure out a good plan, do it fast, do it efficient, make sure my family's good, then I think that's what we make. We have every plan in every state, in every circumstance.
Well, and I think that's an important part of this as well, right? Like we said this on another video. Like the first thing that you should do, in my professional opinion, when you are talking to or potentially going to enter into an insurance transaction with a broker, ask them the question, can you enroll me in any other plan besides what you're showing me? And they will be slick. Like, let me tell you, the U.S. Health way, right, is, well, I can advise.
Go watch our U.S. Health video.
I can advise on any plan in the country. Yeah, that's not what I asked you. Answer my question. Can you enroll me in any other plan besides what you're showing me? Because I would not work with that person that could only sell me that one thing because they're going to try really hard to make it work for me. Like all the reasons that's the best thing out there. It's not. And that's what I do love about my new role, our new roles are that I don't have a an opinion one way or the other. Like, you're going to tell me how you use a plan. I'm going to help you find the best thing. If you love it, great. If you don't, I'll show you something else. Like, there's always another option. But I love that about this role, is that we can just make sure we do what's right by the client. And that is not always the case. So ask that question. Can you enroll me in any other plan besides what you're showing me right now? It's a really important telltale factor, because if they cannot, or if they fumble, or they give you the slick answer I just gave you, it means that they're trying really hard to make you fit into the box that they have, and it may not actually be in your best interest.
Yeah, 100%. So, guys, there'll be a link down below. Book a time with one of our agents, and we'll definitely get you guys hooked up.
We'll take care of you.
And check all the options.
Yeah.
But put down in the comments below, did this bring you value? Did this help?
Did you learn anything?
The difference between a deductible and a max out of pocket, and all the crazy stuff that, like, this is what's hard about insurance is they say one thing, but it's not always there's other layers to it. You know?
Always layers. But it's an educational process.
It's
for
crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
Guys, we'll see you on the next one. I'm Dakota.
I'm Lori.
Bye.
Take care.